Welcome to Mind Power Meets Mystic. You are here for another wonderful episode with me, Michelle Walters. I'm the Mind Power part of Mind Power Meets Mystic, and Cynthia Varkvister, my co-host. She is our show Mystic. We are continuing with our chakra series today, and today we are speaking to Deldelp Medina. Deldelp is a seasoned leader and ecosystem builder who has founded and led 4 entrepreneur support organizations. With deep experience in helping founders and business owners harness software as a strategic tool for customer growth and revenue generation, she brings both vision and practical know-how to every engagement. Based in San Francisco, but working globally, Deldelp has built and scaled entrepreneurial ecosystems across the United States, Mexico, Europe, partnering with stakeholders to create environments where innovation and exclusive growth thrive. Her training in lean startup, design thinking, cross-cultural engagement, and financial management equips her to deliver results in a complex, fast-changing markets. Whether she's advising a solo founder or shaping a regional strategy, Deldelp combines tactical execution with a strong economic opportunity lens, helping businesses grow with intention, impact, and long-term value. Welcome, Deldelp.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Cynthia. I'm interested and intrigued to have this conversation.
Well, it's always fun having a conversation with you, Del, because it's never boring. That is for sure. I find we've known each other for a really long time,
Yes.
and I find you very passionate, very knowledgeable, and really sincere. Those are great things to have. When I met you, you were in change management, I believe,
Yes.
which was, I mean, you were just a baby. And then you've blossomed into doing these really incredible things, helping small companies learn to uh, get solid and thrive. So tell us, how did you get into this business, and
Wow.
who is it that you've been helping lately, or in the past?
I mean, when people ask me this question, it's difficult to answer because I don't come from people who think about or have the experience of having careers. Like, that's just not our experience. I'm first generation immigrant family. My family's originally from Colombia. And while we are very well educated people and we like to read and we like to create and we are involved in very intellectual pursuits, that does not necessarily translate to be able to thrive under certain circumstances. And so I got here by accident. Like, it's literally been one accident after another. I often say that it is just my curiosity that got me here, of trying to figure out some answers for myself, and then learning those lessons in difficult ways sometimes and in great ways in others, and then just being like, oh, how can this be helpful to somebody else who might be looking to be on the same track that I am, or is interested in solving these issues, or is interested in asking these difficult but needed questions. And so I would say it's a combination of inquiry, um, as well as just stubbornness at this point, because there's times when I'm like, man, is there something else I could be doing?
But then it would be boring.
It would be very boring. I don't like boring.
Right, right. So who have you been helping in the not so distant past?
Yeah, so for the last, I would say 15 years or so, I have led 4 different ecosystem and entrepreneurial support organizations. And that means helped to run accelerators, incubators, pitch competitions, organizations that need to be working together but are often pitted against each other. How do I get people around a table to talk about the issues at hand? How do I help to think about like entrepreneurship in a different way? We've all known, specifically because we're in the Bay Area, like we've seen in the last, 17 years, people have become millionaires and billionaires, not necessarily because they're smarter, but because they had access to certain networks and certain opportunities. And so, what does it look like for us to create that for ourselves in a way that is more equitable, but more importantly, actually solving the problems that we have at hand? I think of whether you're starting a business or a nonprofit, it doesn't really matter under what bucket it is. You have to be solving somebody's problem. And it is about what is that problem? How can you solve it? And can people put money in your pocket to be able to pay yourself and others?
That's really cool, Dildel. So here's my quick story about Dildel is Cynthia talked about this person named Deldelp for years, and I never got to meet Deldel. And then went to a barbecue, I think, or something a couple of years ago and met you, and I was like, oh, now I get what the big deal
Yeah.
is. Um, because I think the work you do is so important and so needed and cool and hard.
Yeah.
Working with entrepreneurs can be a little tricky because they want to, I mean, not all of them, I'm being totally general here, but many of them believe that they know everything. And
Mhm.
yet there's a certain amount of listening that you have to do and learning where you are weak and where your market's going to go. And if this big coming change is going to affect you like the way you think it is or it isn't.
Yeah.
And I just think it's absolutely beautiful that you have taken a focus to helping those people and those organizations figure it out because it ain't easy. I feel like as I look at the business world, and I know, I mean, I'm trying to sort of put this in the context of like, our nation's been to war before. Like there've been other big bad things that have happened in the past. But we certainly are in a time of what feels like massive uncertainty. And I would think that that is I don't know, a theme, a
Yeah.
song playing in the worlds of the people you work with. Could you share? We're recording this just in case like
Yes.
somebody listens to this years from now in August 2025. And it'll probably go up in September or so. But tell us a little bit, Delda, what is it that you see in the communities that you're working with out there right now?
I mean, I think the uncertainty is definitely there. I mean, the reality is too that we're in living in a moment in time where there's never been more income inequality. And so the
True.
difference between labor and capital right now is just huge. It's huge. And I think so often in this country, we're taught that we have to be respectful of folks with a lot of money. And I think at this moment in time, a lot of people are losing respect, in part because it's getting harder and harder for people to make a living. And there is a difference between kind of like the structures and systems that we're in right now and the fact that as humans, we've always liked to trade with each other. It doesn't matter where you come from, where your people come from, where in terms of both lineage and geography, humans have been trading with each other for forever. So business and business practices and exchange practices have always existed. It is the way of who has control over what assets and what does that mean for that community and that culture that I like to take a look at because we don't have to be doing it the way that we're doing it. And this kind of like winners takes all mentality is just, it's not healthy for the planet. It's not healthy for us. We're living in a very extractive moment. And so when I am working with people and helping them build their own businesses while building my own, I'm always thinking of how do I do this in a way that's not extractive? How do I create a set of practices for ourselves and ensure that that is an alternative people know about. People know you can read any business book right now, and chances are the story it will tell you from one very specific lens and a set of experiences that very few of us have. And at the same time, it will tell you to be as exploitative as possible. And I think at this moment in time, we need less exploitation and more nourishment. And so the way that one of my colleagues and mentors told me recently, she's like, let's stop talking about how there's this phrase specifically in the tech company in the tech world. It's about how software is going to eat the world. And she's like, how about we talk about how we're going to feed people? How do we feed the world instead of eating it? Like this sort of notion of constantly being consuming or having a never-ending growth cycles is really not in line with just science and biology itself.
No, we have one planet.
Yeah, but
We
it's
have
also
one
not in line with
planet.
our own selves and our own
Yeah.
spirits and our own ways of being.
Yeah.
So I think about that all the time too.
Yeah. You're reminding me, I went to a protest a couple of months ago and my big sign said, "No need for greed."
Yeah.
I do believe that we live in a world of abundance and
Yeah.
that we've gotten really mixed up about how that abundance gets shared, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, that's what I say all the time. At this moment in time in 2025, there has never been so much money and so many resources. Who has access to it and what they're choosing to do with it, that is a different question. So that this constant sort of like fight for resources isn't really about the resources themselves, it's about access points. And so like that's the other thing that I'm always like trying to figure out, like what are the access points we can build? What are the things that we can build for ourselves that will be beneficial in the long term in a way that's not destructive to ourselves, the planet, and our communities?
Let's talk about the other side of it, right? Because, I am the woo, supposedly, which, I don't know if I really am or not, but here we are. There are a lot of layoffs happening.
Yes.
There's a huge shift in the workforce. And then there are a lot of people who are saying, I have a little bit of time, why not take a risk and start my own business? Especially since, and we're also in hustle culture, which, is cool and super stressful in itself. So you got not many jobs, you've got hustle culture, which really doesn't help you out. It doesn't really advance you in any way, shape, or form. And you have this moment in time where you can say, I'm going to give myself a little bit of space and I'm going to do this thing that I love, or at least give it a chance because I got nothing more to lose. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing, nothing more to lose. So I'm assuming that these are a lot of the people that you are seeing these days. Um, what's the common denominator and how have you been helping them out?
Mm,
Are you seeing any traction? And, what are their pain points? Because I have a feeling their pain points are my pain points
mm.
because, and one last thing, let's just add one more layer on it. Here
Okay.
we are, a bunch of women, right? We're not always considered equal. And
Mm,
then let's add on to that there are a few of us here that are people of color. And
mm,
then, let's add on that one of us or more may be queer,
mhm.
right? So here are all these discrepancies in this little set of three boxes. Um, and you're talking about equity, you know, are you seeing these people, just add that layer in there too when you're talking about people.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also, thank you for bringing that perspective. And it's an important, your lived experiences and how you are in the world, and what access points you have to things is a reality that we have not wanted to, like, I would say this as a Gen Xer, like, I am of that generation that was told, oh, you have it so good because you don't have this separate but equal situation, or you have so many more opportunities. Like I remember one of my aunts in particular would just be like, "Oh my God, you're so lucky. You don't have to work in a factory." You know what I mean? Which was like one of the first jobs that she ever got. You get to go to college, like that's such a like, oh my God, you get to go to college and that's a good thing, right? And so I think that a lot of us were lulled into this idea that systems were equitable when they never have been, and also when in the span of the history of this country in particular, but the world in general, we've never really dealt with the enslavement of folks as well as the stolen land that we stand on. Like that's a reality. And I think
True.
what's heartening to me at this moment in time is that a lot of people are taking a look at those systems. And I think like there's a big kind of system shifts that's happening. At the same time, people are looking at their economic opportunities very differently because with AI, and we were just talking about AI before we got on, started recording. With AI, we don't know what jobs are. So if somebody's going to college pretty much in the next couple of weeks, by the time they graduate in 4 years, we don't know what jobs they're going to be. So I always like recommend to people like learning how to learn is the best skill set you can have. Learning how to pivot is another amazing one. Having a plan A, B, C, D, E, F is also good because there are the things you can control and the things that you don't control. There's a lot of things we don't control right now. And so, really having a good understanding of who you are, what your skill sets are, what you do control, what you don't control is really, really helpful to starting a business. I also really recommend getting into a place of curiosity because anything dealing with neurology tells you that if you're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, your ability to move through the world is so much harder. It's harder to put yourself out there. It's harder to engage. It's harder, like, so, like, I find that whenever I feel stuck, I move myself into a place of curiosity and I ask a question, right? And by asking one question, that leads to another question. And so going into a place of inquiry is also important because I'll give you an example. Like, I had somebody that came to me recently, um, bought a laundromat, came from a very different business kind of background, found themselves in a situation where they were like, I better figure out how I'm going to make a living. Bought a laundromat and is now learning how to do that. And I think what's interesting to me in conversation with this person was that if they hadn't put themselves in a situation where they just asked good questions, they might have not been able to come up with the answer is buying the laundromat. They might have thought, no, this is what I studied, this is what I went to college for, this is what my experience is. I'm going to stay in the field that I'm in no matter what. And the reality is that they were like, okay, where else can I apply the field that I've learned and the thing that I've learned? And what are the needs that I actually have? And the laundromat was the answer, right? And so you just might end yourself up with starting a cooking business. Why? Because everybody loves your cooking. And then the question becomes like, what are you going to charge people for that? And who's going to want it? And where are you going to find customers? And how do you create a set of recipes that are both scalable? So it doesn't matter whether you're cooking for 5 people or 20 or 100 or 150, you can do so in a way that is not taxing, right? But you have to ask yourself a set of questions before you even get started. And so I always believe like asking really good questions leads you to much better place. And it might just not be the place that you thought you were going to end up in. Like I said to you, when you asked me the question, like, how'd you end up here? I was like, I didn't plan any of this. It's just more like, I am trying to figure out a thing. Where can I go get help? Who can help me? What classes can I take? Who can I be in connection with? Who else is asking these questions? How can I learn from them? How can I practice this thing? And then it just became one thing after another.
I think that that is a wonderful summary of some of the tremendous, I don't know, love I've got for you, Deldelp, which, as I mentioned, I haven't known you all that long, not as long as
Yeah.
Cynthia, certainly. Um, but your sense of curiosity, your sense of inquiry, your sense of like, let's learn, let's not be afraid to ask harder questions, is really magnificent. And I
Yeah.
think that
It's the thing that's kept me sane, honestly.
well, I think it's core to who you are. Like it's kind of like who Del is inside, right? In your core being as you were born into this life experience you got going on. But I also wanted to share that you helped Cynthia and I look at some questions about our businesses recently. And I mean, I thought it was so helpful.
Oh, you're
You
welcome.
you brought some nice templates to the conversation and had some really good, questions for us. Michelle, are you trying to do this? Cynthia, are you trying to do too much? Those kinds of things. And it was extremely helpful for me. And so I can just imagine that if you're able to help folks like me and Cynthia, you are probably able to bring tremendous value to people and organizations close by and far away.
Yeah. And I don't think, I mean, for me, it's all like humans are human. That's what I always say. Like humans are human and we're going to human. We're going to do the things. And so it doesn't matter whether you want to build the biggest business possible or you just want to be a solopreneur or you're just trying to like do the things that you love and get paid for them. It like the set of practices in the beginning are very much the same. Are like, who are your customers? What do they want? How much are they willing to pay you? What are the things that are needed? to be able to be successful. Like it's very, very foundational. And so like that's why I like working with folks at different stages. Like I'm currently working with someone who's like creating software. I'm working with somebody who's selling coffee. I'm working with someone who's like created a text-based company, where it's just that everything's through text. And it doesn't really matter what it is. At the end of the day, like everybody just wants to be able to give a good service, to be able to bring value for people's lives, to be able to solve problems. And as long as like those things are true, then it makes it pretty easy to like work with most people.
Well, let me add that to that though, because there's this secret sauce that you have
Oh,
that you're not talking about, and that is
which is,
you can see everyone to the nth degree, which means
mm,
that someone comes to you with what they think is a big idea, and then you start spinning and you spin
mm,
it, and then all of a sudden something really big is created. And it's actually a little bit intimidating to go,
mm,
oh my God, I only saw myself doing this. And you're really taking that product and you're or the service and you're really scaling it to a place that they hadn't even seen before. So let's talk about that because
mm.
I think it's an intuitive place.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that it is. I'm saying I think it is, but you do have that skill and it's something that I haven't seen anybody else do. To,
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
now, they'll take you to the next level, but
Okay.
they don't take you to the nth degree,
Okay. I will
right?
take that. Thank you for that compliment. Yeah, it's funny you should say that because it is very easy. Like I had a conversation with somebody recently, and it was the sort of thing where like they're trying to solve a problem. And so somebody recommended talk to me, and I was like, okay, let me help you solve this problem. Like I like to ask a lot of questions too, because as a colleague of mine says, I don't want to give advice, but I will tell you what my experience is or what I see or what the possibility could be. And then I was just like, oh, actually, you could build out a whole thing around this. And I hadn't thought about it. She was just trying to solve a problem she had. And I was like, based on your skill sets, based on who you are, based on the knowledge you have, if you're having this problem, other people might have this problem. And it won't earn you thousands of dollars. But if you're having a financial like moment where you just need to get some money together, you could build something where people are willing to pay you 25 to $50 and just be able to get access to a solution because you're trying to solve this problem and you've put the time and energy into solving that problem. And that is, I think, a very different way. And so, like, one of the things that I'm looking at right now in this moment is like so often people think of big tech as like these big tech giants, of which I've worked with some and been sponsored by some. And right now I'm trying to look at the opposite, which is the small tech. What is the small technical needs that people have? What are the small solutions that could be really helpful to people in the short term?
I
Yep.
love
Well, I love that because I'm busy here working on my app, and my app is going to be all about, not that big,
Yeah.
right? And who knows where it'll be in 6 months or 2 years. I don't know. Maybe it'll
Yeah.
be huge. But there is really, I guess, within that massive sea of uncertainty, right? There are places for little things to bubble up and things to be different and new and that kind of a thing. Cynthia, tell us again, because I'm still learning my chakras, how Deldel's work relates to chakra 4.
Yeah, please
so
tell me because I had to ask you. I was like, remind me.
I know, well, you're living it. So, fourth chakra has to do with balance, right? It's about passion and compassion. It's about what is your fingerprint on life or your thumbprint on life? What is the love that is greater than yourself? What is
Mm,
the love without ego? What is the thing that, right? What is the thing that brings us present? The thing that's bigger than ourselves. Whenever I talk with you, I always think about your love. Like I just said, you make it bigger based on people's energy. You make things bigger than what they had already envisioned, which I think is amazing. And that is completely fourth chakra. Now,
okay.
getting there is something different, but right, but seeing it and having people like they see it for themselves, I believe is also a gift, whether they act on it or not. The
Mm,
fact that there's a possibility and not even a possibility, it's actually a probability because you have uh, very concretely laid out a way that you could build things out or, shift things
You're
up.
inspiring. I think that's what
Oh,
she's trying to say.
okay.
You're inspiring, and your ability to see things that other people aren't seeing right now
Mhm.
is is a wonderful gift that the world needs. And I'm so glad that it has you.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Michelle.
No, I think about the one person who we know that is an amazing healer and she has product, she has all these things. And I remember one day I said you could, wrap it all together and be, soup to nuts. And you went to the other place and went, well, your products could do this and this could happen. And then she kind of disappeared.
Mhm.
And, not in a bad way, but it
Yeah.
became a very, I think the reality of it became a bit overwhelming.
Mhm.
Again, not a bad thing, it's just something, right? So, yeah. Tell us how you help people scale, like you've helped us.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's not that hard for me to envision and kind of like figure out like what are the pieces that are needed. And one of the things that I have to do to ground myself in this work is also be like, what are the actions that we can take that actually helps people get there? And so that's why I'm also like really invested in this idea of like, how do we build a small kind of tech rather than these giant projects, right? Like I'm not trying to help people go and be the next big insert name, a big tech company, here. I'm rather like trying to help people figure out what are the things that they need to be able to ensure that they have a product that pays them and their team well, that people feel like they're getting value for their money. Like that's the key.
That's
Right?
beautiful. Deldel, we're about at the end of our
Yes.
time. What would you like
Already.
to share? I know we may
Boom.
have to bring Deldel back. Okay. What would you like to share with our listeners today?
Yes, you can find me at zcreativelab.com. It's my new website. It's my new team that we're working on. If you have a project, if you have an idea and you're trying to figure out like how do I make this thing grow, or we're thinking of a software play, or we've built something, we've gotten stuck, and we're not quite sure how to get ourselves unstuck. That's what we're working on. It's myself and two other partners, along with some amazing advisors. I'm really proud of the work that we're doing. We're currently just kicked off some case studies. So I'm excited to see how they develop and what we can do around that. So that's what I'm doing. Z Creative Lab. That's where you can find us.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us on
Thank
Mind
you.
Power Meets Mystic. This is Michelle Walters, your Mind Power, and Cynthia Varkevisser, my co-host, our Mystic, signing off. Thanks again, and make sure you listen and share and do all the things. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.